I'm 26 and somehow ended up pregnant after a one-time revenge hookup with the ex-fiancé of the woman my ex cheated on me with for 2 years. It wasn't supposed to mean anything, but now everything's changed, and I don't even know if I should tell him. I'm a 26-year-old woman, and I just found out I'm pregnant, something I never expected, especially considering it happened after a revenge hookup with the 35-year-old ex-fiancé of the woman, 30F, my ex-boyfriend, 32M, cheated on me with for 2 years. My ex and I met when I was 20 and stayed friends for a while before starting a relationship about 2.5 years ago. Last year, I discovered he had been cheating on me throughout most of our time together with a woman he met through mutual friends. I ended the relationship once I found out and decided to tell her fiancé about the affair. He called off their engagement once he knew the truth. At first, she acted like it didn't bother her until she realized that the luxury lifestyle my ex had been showing off wasn't really his. He had been flaunting things I had bought him, even claiming the house and antique car my grandfather left me, inherited from my grandmother's passing in 2019, were his. Looking back, I'm not proud of how I handled things. Even after the breakup, I let my ex take advantage of me for a month or two because I missed him. I gave him money and kept trying to make things work, only to be ghosted every time he ran back to her. My parents and friends would always scold me after I went to them crying. I didn't fully let go of him until her ex-fiancé reached out and told me she had been mocking me to their old friends, calling me pathetic and desperate for a man who didn't care about me. That crushed me. Instead of going to my parents or friends who I knew would only lecture me, I asked if he'd be willing to meet and talk. He agreed, and we met at a food cart spot. We ended up spending the whole day together, talking and just wandering around. It was surprisingly comforting. He opened up about his history with his ex. They'd been friends for a decade, and had feelings for most of that time, but he stayed single to focus on school. Eventually, after a phone call where he admitted he was feeling sick and overwhelmed by his residency, she drove over 12 hours overnight to take care of him. She cleaned, cooked homemade meals, and helped him out. He was living off vending machine snacks and instant coffee. He said he had never felt so cared for in his life, and that moment made him believe she was the one. To him, if that wasn't love, nothing was. Finding out she had been cheating on him for the last 2 years made everything suddenly make sense. She had been avoiding wedding plans and telling her friends she had doubts. He was even trying to convince her to go to couples therapy when I told him about the affair. I felt like a monster, hearing their love story and then realizing that they didn't get their happy ending because of my ex, and I messed with my head. We continued to talk from time to time, checking in on each other and meeting up for quick bite every now and then. We lost contact after the girl my ex cheated on me with somehow convinced him to take her back. I became slightly depressed after he cut me off, explaining to me that he was still in love with her and wanted to work things out, which meant a clean slate. I later found out thanks to some internet digging that my ex had also cheated on the other woman, which led her to go back to her ex-fiancé. A few months went by, and life started to feel somewhat normal again. I began therapy and was starting to feel ready to put myself out there and try dating again. Then, around New Year's, I got a call from her ex-fiancé. He was crying and asked if we could talk. Concerned, I agreed and went over to his place. When I got there, he completely broke down. He told me that over Christmas, during his family's big holiday gathering, he caught her and my ex together in his mother's guest bedroom. She had apparently snuck my ex in for a quick hookup while everyone else was busy. He had spent about 20 minutes searching for her, only to walk in and find them like that. It was devastating. We ended up drinking a bit and, in the heat of the moment, we had sex. Afterward, he apologized and admitted that it was a mistake. He wasn't thinking clearly and was just reacting out of pain. He told me it didn't make him feel any better and that it was purely revenge-driven. I tried to reach out to him a few times afterward, just to check in and offer support as a friend, but he blocked me. So I let it go, focused on therapy, and continued with my life. Last week, I went in for a checkup because I'd been having bad cramps and also needed a refill on my birth control, which I take to manage my PCOS. As part of the routine, they did a pregnancy test just in case, and I was completely shocked when it came back positive. Now I'm sitting with this huge piece of information, trying to figure out what to do. I'm torn between telling him, staying quiet, or even whether I should continue with the pregnancy at all. My doctor told me that since I'm still in the early stages, there's a high risk of miscarriage, so part of me wonders if I'm even worrying about something that might not last. I don't want it to come off like I'm using this as a way to get his attention, especially since he made it clear after what happened that he didn't want to keep in contact. I haven't told anyone yet. I feel overwhelmed, stuck in my head, and unsure of what the right next step is. Update. A lot has changed since my original post. Even though many people advised against it, I chose to continue with the pregnancy, and I'm endlessly grateful that I did. My baby is the light of my life. I had initially planned to have an abortion, but when the day of the appointment came, I couldn't go through with it. I want to be clear that I'm still pro-choice and always will be. Just because I made this decision for myself doesn't mean anyone else should be forced into the same. Every person deserves the right to make choices about their own body. Unfortunately, my decision didn't sit well with my family. My parents were deeply disappointed, and eventually, my entire family cut ties with me. Despite all that, I followed the advice some of you gave and reached out to the father, let's call him Dave. After several failed attempts to contact him, I decided to show up in person. Dave wasn't thrilled to see me, but once I explained why I was there, he agreed to talk. He told me that he had ended things with his ex for good and had been avoiding contact with me because I reminded him of that painful chapter in his life. Still, he said he was open to working out a co-parenting plan, as long as we first confirmed paternity. While that part stung a little, I understood. After all, we weren't close before everything happened, and our bond came from shared trauma. I agreed. Things were going fairly smoothly until I began spotting around 26 weeks. My OBGYN mentioned that spotting can be normal during pregnancy, but mine was heavier than expected, and I was also showing signs of high blood pressure and blood sugar, raising concerns about preeclampsia and gestational diabetes. During that time, Dave began staying over on my couch to help out, and eventually, we moved some of my essentials into his place since he lived closer to the hospital. I'm incredibly grateful that we made that move when we did, because I went into premature labor at 32 weeks. Dave and his family became my lifeline. His mom, in particular, was a rock for me. She'd take turns with him at the hospital, advocate for me when I felt invisible, and offered both emotional and physical support when I was overwhelmed. When all I wanted was the comfort of my own mom who had gone no contact, Dave's mother was there. She stood by me every step of the way. She was truly a blessing. As a retired nurse with a background in OB, NICU, and lactation, she explained everything in a calm and compassionate way, especially when we learned that my baby had respiratory complications and SUA, single umbilical artery, which may have contributed to the early labor. She stayed with us, helped me with pumping when my milk wouldn't come in, and constantly reminded me that I wasn't a failure, even when I felt like one. She drove me to and from the hospital during the weeks my baby was in the NICU, supported me when I was completely drained, and helped carry the emotional weight I couldn't always manage. I genuinely believe I avoided slipping into severe postpartum depression because she was there holding space for me, never judging, and always patient, even when I couldn't be that way with myself. She often told me, "No one is to blame, this is just one of life's trials. And we'll get through it together." And somehow, her words gave me strength. My son graduated from the NICU and came home a month after I did. Dave's mom visited us often and helped with him since Dave and I are first-time parents. Dave's dad joked that he felt like she and I had the baby together, and he and Dave were both just background characters that make guest star appearances every now and then, since Dave was working so much in order to build more PTO, and his mom wouldn't bring his dad along when she'd come visit since she didn't want him to disturb me and the baby with his loudness. Dave's dad is hard of hearing and can sometimes be unaware of his volume, so he took no offense to it. Dave's siblings and family members posted a lot about our son because he was the first grandchild and first baby in a long time. Dave's youngest cousin is 17, turning 18 this year. Somehow someone must have shared a photo or something, but pictures of us reached my family and my parents demanded I let them meet my son. Dave was supportive of whatever I chose to do and said he'd agree to them meeting him if that's what I wanted. After thinking about it for a few days, I decided that I wanted to talk to my parents before I let them meet my son. When we met up to talk, my parents were offended that I didn't bring my son with us and left him with Dave's parents. They said some really hurtful things, and then my dad started to question on when Dave was going to ask him for permission for us to get married since we didn't already have a shotgun wedding while I was pregnant. I was okay with them insulting me since I'd grown up with it and was used to it, but once my parents put their target on Dave and his family, I became upset and decided it was time for us to leave. My parents actually tried to file for legal visitation rights, which I didn't even know was a thing before all of this, but the court denied their petition. Since our son is still very young, and because Dave and I are on good terms, living together, and there was no evidence of harm or instability, their request didn't hold up. My family later accused us of being cruel for keeping their grandchild away, but they had nothing to say when Dave's family stood up for us and reminded everyone that they were the ones who disowned me in the first place. No one from my side even checked on me until after the baby was born and everything had settled down. Things escalated when my mom started making false reports to CPS and repeatedly called the police for welfare checks. During one visit, she caused a huge scene when the police found nothing wrong and refused to take my son into her temporary custody, which she demanded, for his safety. The police ended up issuing her a harassment warning. At one point, she and Dave's mom nearly got into a physical fight. Because of all this, Dave and I currently have restraining orders pending against my parents and a few other relatives. One of the reasons I'm writing this update is because something happened recently that's been weighing on me. About 2 months ago, Dave went out for drinks with a friend and ran into his ex-fiancé. She later messaged him, saying she regretted how things ended and that it hurt her to hear he'd had a baby with me so soon after their breakup. Dave wouldn't really talk to me about how he felt. Whenever I brought it up, he either avoided the topic or redirected the conversation towards something about our son, something he knew would throw me off. After that encounter, I started noticing a shift in Dave. He became more distant, and the dynamic between us felt tense and awkward. I know he still has lingering feelings for her, and I can't help but worry that he now feels stuck with me, with our son, or with this life we've built. On top of that, the continued drama with my family seems to have worn thin the patience of both Dave and his family. On Mother's Day, I overheard some of his relatives making passive comments like, "She's just the baby's mom," and "She's not really family." When Dave was asked why I was even at their family barbecue, he just shrugged and said I didn't have anyone else to spend the day with. With all this tension building, I've been seriously thinking about moving back into my own place. I've been staying with Dave since giving birth, but now that our son is a bit older and I've recovered physically, I feel it's time to give him some space to start dating again if he wants, and space to return to his normal life when I have our son. I want to approach this conversation with care. I don't want to make things more awkward or damage the relationship I have with Dave and his family. I am deeply grateful for everything they've done for me. But I also want to begin rebuilding my own life, going back to work, becoming more independent, and making sure I'm pulling my weight when it comes to supporting our son. Update. I've been trying to stay off my phone and away from Reddit lately because everything feels a bit overwhelming. But I did want to update you all. I talked to Dave. He wasn't supportive of the idea of me moving out, and he also didn't want to talk about how he's been acting since running into his ex. When I brought it up, he said it wasn't relevant to the discussion about me moving and that I was focusing on something that didn't matter. I haven't brought up the things I overheard on Mother's Day. Honestly, I feel really conflicted about it. It sounded like a private conversation, and I don't believe anyone meant to hurt me. Still, it stung. During our talk, Dave told me I might just be overthinking or overreacting, and that now isn't the time to make a big decision like moving out. He also said that because our son was born prematurely, he feels one of us should stay home with him until he's around 2 or 3 to help him keep up developmentally. He suggested we could both go back to work once our son starts pre-K. Since that talk, I've been feeling like he's a little distant. But maybe I am overthinking things like he said. I've read some of the comments here though, and they've helped me feel like maybe my feelings are valid, even if I'm confused. I don't know what the right answer is right now. I just want to do what's best for my son. I know some people probably think I was foolish for going through with the pregnancy, but I'm really trying. My son means everything to me. He's the only family I truly feel I have left, and I just want to make choices that are good for him. I'm doing my best to be better for him. Update. I'm not sure if anyone is still following this, but I wanted to share an update for anyone who might be interested. After my last post, things were pretty tense and awkward between Dave and me for a few weeks until Father's Day, actually. I was hesitant to go to his aunt's house for the family gathering because of the conversation I'd overheard on Mother's Day, but I decided to go since it was Dave's first Father's Day after our son was born last year. I hadn't planned to bring anything up that day because I wanted to keep it positive, but after we got home, Dave was the one who initiated the conversation. He told me he knew about what had been said on Mother's Day and admitted that his cousins gave him a hard time again on Father's Day for bringing me along. He apologized for not defending me in the moment and for letting me worry in silence. He also said he didn't want me to move out or to split custody of our son. Coming home to both of us after work, he said, brought him comfort. I told him we didn't need to talk about it that night, but he insisted we address things then and there because he was tired of the discomfort lingering between us. Ironically, Dave said he had been worried that I might feel trapped, especially after everything I went through, going into premature labor, being separated from our son in the NICU, and dealing with the challenges of postpartum recovery. Seeing how my own family turned their backs on me, and how some of his relatives weren't supportive either, made him feel even worse. He admitted that while he hadn't intended for me to feel alone, he realized I might, and that wasn't okay with him. He made it clear that while he'd like to explore a relationship between us and see where things might go, he never wants me to feel like I have to stay if I'm unhappy. He said that if a healthy co-parenting friendship is what works best, he's completely on board with that too, as long as there's mutual respect and stability for our son. We had a long, honest talk and cleared the air. Dave also told me he doesn't have feelings for his ex-fiancé and that his recent distance wasn't about me. It stemmed from him having a sort of life crisis, realizing how different his life looks from what he had imagined it would be. In the end, We agreed that my son and I would continue living with Dave, and I'd start easing back into work by finding a part-time job. It feels good to have things out in the open and to be moving forward with a little more clarity and peace. Things were rocky and a little odd to navigate at first, but Dave's parents helped us a lot with our son when I started job hunting and got a part-time position working at a local bank branch nearby Dave's place. Dave and I slowly started to explore our relationship to see where things would go between us. It was weird for the both of us because of how we'd met and started out, but within 3-4 months things got much better. I moved my things from our son's room into Dave's. Our son had a hard time initially when Dave and I began to show more affection, hugging and quick innocent kisses with one another because he had a bit of jealousy at how close we were since he was used to us only showering our affections onto him and not each other, but he's gotten used to it now. Dave's family often jokes around and says we should give our son a sibling so he has someone to grow up with, especially since there aren't any other kids in their family. I usually try to steer clear of those conversations, though. I've taken some of your advice and joined a few mommy and me groups, which has been great for helping my son socialize with kids his age. Still, I sometimes feel a little guilty thinking about how quiet it can be at home when it's just the three of us. This past Valentine's Day, Dave made a few playful comments in the heat of the moment about wanting to get me pregnant again. Later on, when I brought it up more seriously, he said he didn't really mean anything by it, it was just something he said in the moment. We've previously discussed that, because of my PCOS and the way my hormones were so off balance, I wouldn't go back on birth control. I've actually felt a lot better since giving birth, so for now we've been relying on the calendar method. I've tried bringing up the idea of Dave using condoms, but he's made it pretty clear that he's not open to that. He says he doesn't like how they feel and doesn't want to use them. While we both know we're clean, we've had 2 pregnancy scares already. There have been a few times Dave forgot to pull out, and although he always reassures me that having another baby wouldn't be the end of the world, I know I'm not ready for that. He says the only change would be that I'd probably have to quit work again, but with how much effort it already takes to juggle everything with just one child, I can't imagine adding a second into the mix right now. Things between Dave and me have been really good lately, and I don't want to stir up tension by repeatedly bringing up birth control. Still, I've been thinking about possibly going back on the pill or looking into other options, but I'm nervous about what that might do to my body and mental health. The last time was really hard on me, and I don't want to go through that again. If anyone has suggestions or advice, I'd love to hear them. Thank you so much for all the support and encouragement, it truly means the world to me. My life has changed so much for the better, and I'm beyond grateful for all of you and the wisdom you've shared.